Sorry, officer. What's wrong?
Something stung me.
Are you okay? What do I do?
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another honest game review from Eletodd Games. This time we're taking a look at the amazing 9th entry in the legendary Resident Evil series, Resident Evil Requiem. I'm only going to show footage from the first couple of hours of the game, even though I have beaten it, just to not spoil anything major for people who are really looking for some great twists and turns in this one, especially if you played the past games. Unlike most games on this channel though, I didn't stream it or record it, or do any voiced episodes during my first playthrough. Instead, I simply played it for myself and enjoyed every moment. In fact, I played it with an audience, my teenage daughters and my wife, white knuckle squeezing pillows on the couch beside me, screaming, laughing, and telling me what to do, or more accurately, what room not to go in. Is this the best game in the series? Well, that's sort of complicated, as it depends a lot on which of the games in the series you like the most. Do you prefer the more action-based, classic puzzling style of the older games and their recent remakes? Or do you prefer the tense first-person perspective, cinema, terror, like some of the newer games like the Biohazard and Village? Let's talk about it. My first experience with Resident Evil goes all the way back to the first game, while in college on my uncle's PlayStation. I only played it a bit one night, but I knew it was something special. Later I would rent Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64 and play number 3 on a computer. And that was where my time with the series kind of took a hiatus for a few years, missing out on the much-loved Part 4, which was on GameCube exclusively, until Part 5 on Xbox 360. I lost track of the series after that, mostly due to other genres like the open-world games and Souls-likes and epic RPGs taking over my playlist. That'll change early in 2025, due to a lucky combination of good game sales and PlayStation Plus catalog editions. Over the first part of last year, I played through the remakes 2, 3, and 4. After the remake, I kept my Resident Evil push going through the rest of 2025, playing the newer main series game Village, though I only played it after I could play it in third-person mode. Doing so took me back to why I loved the series to begin with. A perfect mix of scares and action and puzzles in these interconnected areas without being exhaustingly pure fear. Say like something like Silent Hill, or some of the other modern scary games that focus too much for me on terror to really enjoy it. I like a bit of stress and excitement in my gaming, but I don't like pure scary games, where I can't defend myself or occasionally go guns a-blazing. It's the reason I just couldn't play Outlast.
Grace Ashcroft.
Yes?
Resident Evil Requiem follows a linear story through a shared experience of two protagonists. A newcomer to the series, Grace Ashcroft, and the series legend, Leon Kennedy, in his 4th game in the series.
I need your eyes on the crime scene.
The focus revolves around FBI analyst Grace, daughter of Alyssa, who is from Resident Evil Outbreak, as she starts to investigate mysterious T-virus deaths of Raccoon City survivors. This instantly grounds the storyline with the original games, and helps it feel like a return to form, after some of the more recent games got so far from the events of the first 3 games. She teams up with Leon as her investigation takes them to a giant mansion, hunting down a former Umbrella scientist, Victor Gideon. I have to resist sharing any more details on the story beyond that, because it's so well done with some genuine surprises that I don't want to spoil anything. For those who played the past games, you'll get just enough fan service without being overkill. And if this is your first Resident Evil experience, the story is self-contained enough to enjoy it at face value. When it comes to gameplay, if you've ever played a modern Resident Evil game before now, you'll be right at home. You can either play in third person or first person. However, the game intentionally directs you to play Grace in first person mode and Leon in third person. That's primarily because most of her scenes are tense, stress-inducing survival moments, whereas Leon is pure fight, guns a-blazing, kicking zombie ass. And even though you can swap between perspectives at any time in the menu, I found myself keeping that format for my first playthrough, just as the developers intended. This is more than just a camera angle though, and that is where Requiem starts to show its true brilliance in storytelling. As a new character who is abducted early and dragged into this dark universe, Grace is an analyst with no real combat experience and tragedy in her past, and that makes her feel helpless at the start of the game, unprepared and terrified as she creeps through the darkness. So playing her in first person really helps amplify those senses. Focused on stealth, puzzles, and limited resources, her segments in the game are more scary and intense, but it's also a hell of a lot of fun. What makes this work so well, though, is that you don't stay with her forever. The game seems to just know when it's getting exhausting, and you may need a break, as it swaps you to Leon, who is designed to play in third person. He plays similar to the late game characters in newer remakes, but with more souped up and aggressive playstyle focused on violence and combat. Where Grace may see a few enemies and sneak by them with little to no weapons, Leon is taking out hordes with multiple guns and chainsaws like Rambo within the first hour, which seems like an endless supply of bullets. That is until the late game, when you start to really have to struggle to find anything to craft to make more bullets, which seems like a bit of a balance issue. If you're someone who only wants the fear of 7's Biohazard in first-person mode, or someone who only wants the action of the remakes, this may be jarring and frustrating. But for me it worked out perfectly. It's like they took all the best parts of the Resident Evil games and finally found a structure that makes sense on the strengths in the right places. This ability to swap out perspectives to see how the game plays differently will give you at least one potential replay. And since the game on casual can be beaten in around a dozen hours, unless you're really taking your time, the replay isn't too bad to take on. There is also a New Game Plus mode that gives you more access to weapons at the start, even if you have to recollect and buy things. The downside to this linear structure, however, is it forces you to play each character segment after each one, instead of playing through one as Grace and one as Leon, which is how we've done it before in the past entries like 2 and 3. This may take a little bit of the urge to replay out for some people. However, the game is so good, so fun, and so impressive looking that I can see myself playing at least one more time, specifically on easy to collect everything. I don't really have an interest in killing myself over and over to play on hardcore. I disagree with reviewers saying the series has an identity crisis by doing this. In fact, I think it's found its identity after 30 years of games. I hope they make them all this way. The only issue I found in the two styles of play was an unbalanced feeling in the back half of the game, where you play for a long time with Leon and only briefly again with Grace before the big finale. I also found that with Grace I had too many resources, whereas with Leon towards the end I struggled to find resources, especially with crafting. To craft with Leon you need gunpowder and scrap, and I simply couldn't find much scrap, but I found a ton of gunpowder. That led some of the end sequences to be a struggle where I just didn't have enough ammo and had to restart from a checkpoint. At the end of the day though, despite any of these issues, Resident Evil Requiem is the perfect way to combine the remake with the classic and the newer entries in the series. Some may think it's an identity crisis, but I think it's an identity found, which once again elevates Resident Evil to the top of the survival horror gaming world, and brings back much of the missed lore from the older games that delve into the Umbrella Corporation, Raccoon City, and zombies instead of just monsters. And I hope they keep this format moving forward. For more reviews, full playthroughs, tip videos, and occasional live streams, keep it locked to Eletodd Games. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share videos like this to help encourage me to keep making more. Enjoy your gaming, everyone. See you next time.
You almost there?
Just about. Stuck in traffic.